The chains around Dr. Owen Reed's wrists made a soft clinking sound with each step. He walked between four armed guards through corridors that smelled like recycled air and fear. Nobody spoke. They didn't need to. Everyone knew where this walk ended. Station Blackhold earned its name honestly. The massive prison facility drifted in a region of space where no rescue ships would ever come looking. No sun warmed its metal walls. No planets orbited nearby. Just endless darkness and the worst beings the galaxy had ever produced, locked away where they could hurt no one else. Owen had treated hundreds of patients during his 12 years as a combat medic. He'd saved more lives than he could count. Politicians, soldiers, criminals, and civilians alike. His hands healed without asking questions about who deserved saving. That philosophy cost him everything 3 weeks ago, when he refused to let a young alien prisoner bleed out on an interrogation room floor. His commanding officer wanted information, wanted the prisoner to suffer until he talked. Owen saw a terrified kid holding his intestines in with shaking hands and made a choice. He sedated the prisoner, stopped the bleeding, and reported his superior for torture. 2 days later, Owen faced a closed military tribunal. No public trial, no media coverage, just a quick conviction for insubordination and aiding an enemy combatant. The death sentence came with a creative twist. They stopped at a massive airlock door marked with warnings in 17 languages. The senior guard, a Valorian with purple skin and too many teeth, input a code. The door hissed open, revealing a chamber large enough to park a transport ship inside. The far wall was transparent, showing the cell beyond. Owen's mouth went dry. The dragon inside was enormous. Scales the color of midnight covered a body built for violence. Wings that could probably span 100 feet stayed folded against his back. Claws like curved swords scraped against the metal floor when he shifted position. But the eyes caught Owen's attention most. Golden and intelligent, they tracked the guard's movements with an awareness that made Owen's military training scream warnings. "Meet Shade," the warden said, stepping into view. She was human, which somehow made this worse. Last of the Dracovians in captivity. Killed 347 people on Mining Colony 7. Burned them alive. Women, children, minors who never held a weapon. He's been here 5 years and we keep him alive because certain government officials want to study his species' resilience. Shade's lips pulled back, showing teeth designed to rip through armor plating. The warden ignored him. "Your sentence is 30 days inside that cell," she continued, looking at Owen with flat, bureaucratic disinterest. "No weapons, no communication devices, no protective gear. If you survive, you'll be released with a dishonorable discharge and never allowed to practice medicine again. If you don't survive, well, at least you'll have died doing what you apparently love, trying to preserve life, even worthless life." "The prisoner I saved was 17, Owen said quietly. "He was conscripted against his will. That's not an enemy combatant. That's a victim." "That's above my pay grade," the warden replied. "Stripped to basics. The medical kit stays. I find that amusing given what you're about to face." Owen removed his uniform jacket and boots, keeping only the simple clothes underneath. They let him keep his medical bag, probably because they thought it made the sentence more ironic. A healer dying with all his tools, unable to save himself. The inner airlock opened. Owen stepped through, and it sealed behind him with a finality that resonated in his chest. The cell was cold, 50 meters across, 20 meters high. No furniture except a waste disposal unit and a food dispensary. The walls were scarred with claw marks, some deep enough that Owen could fit his fist inside them. Shade hadn't moved. He remained in the far corner, partially hidden in shadows that seemed darker than they should be. Those golden eyes never blinked. Owen set his medical bag down and sat against the wall opposite the dragon. His heart hammered, but he controlled his breathing. Panic helped no one. He'd learned that truth during his first battlefield rotation, when a transport crash left him surrounded by screaming wounded and limited supplies. You assess, prioritize, and act. Emotion comes later. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Shade watched him like a cat studying a mouse. Owen watched back, using the time to observe. The dragon's left wing hung slightly lower than the right. His movements, though minimal, showed a hesitation when shifting weight to his rear left leg. The scales around his shoulder joint looked darker, possibly indicating old blood or infection beneath. "Why don't you run?" Shade's voice was deep enough to vibrate Owen's ribs. The dragon spoke in perfect galactic common, with an accent that suggested education. "Where would I run to?" Owen asked. "The cell is 50 meters across. You could reach me in 3 seconds if you wanted. Running would just make me die tired. You could beg. Most do. Would it change anything? Shade tilted his massive head, considering. No. Then I won't waste our time. The dragon made a sound that might have been amusement or hunger. Our time? Interesting choice of words. We're locked in here together, Owen said. That makes it our time whether either of us likes it or not. I'm going to kill you eventually. You understand that, correct? Maybe, Owen replied, surprising himself with his own calmness. But you haven't yet, and you've had plenty of opportunity. So either you're playing with your food or there's something else happening here. Shade moved forward slightly into better light. Owen fought the instinct to press back against the wall. The dragon's size up close was overwhelming. Each tooth was as long as Owen's hand. One casual swipe would end everything. I destroyed Mining Colony 7, Shade said. Do you know why? Your file said unprovoked aggression. My file is written by liars. The dragon's voice carried old anger, burning low and steady like coals. They were torturing Dracovian prisoners, taking them from frontier settlements, claiming they were dangerous, then experimenting on them. I found the facility beneath the mining operations. Found my people strapped to tables, conscious while your species cut them apart to see how we heal. Owen felt something cold settle in his stomach. That's not in any official report. No, it wouldn't be. Easier to call me a monster than admit what your government does in the dark. Shade settled back slightly. So tell me, healer, why are you here? What crime was so terrible they sent you to me? Owen met those golden eyes directly. I saved someone I was ordered to let die. A prisoner. They wanted him to suffer for information. I couldn't watch that and do nothing. The silence stretched between them. Shade's expression, as much as a dragon could have expressions Owen could read, changed into something thoughtful. You chose mercy over orders, Shade finally said. I chose my oath over convenience, Owen replied. And they sent you here to die for it. Yes. Shade made that sound again. Definitely amusement this time. Perhaps this will be more interesting than I expected. The dragon retreated to his corner, but something in the cell's atmosphere had shifted. Owen couldn't name it yet, but he was alive. And he'd been alive for over an hour in a cell with the galaxy's most dangerous prisoner. That had to count for something. 3 days felt like 3 years in a cell with a dragon who could end you with one casual movement. Owen developed a routine because routines kept soldiers sane during deployments. Wake when the lights brightened to simulate morning. Eat the tasteless rations from the dispenser. Exercise to keep his muscles from weakening. Clean his medical supplies. Sleep in 4-hour intervals with his back against the wall. Shade watched everything. The dragon didn't sleep much, or perhaps he slept differently than humans. Owen would close his eyes, and when he opened them again, those golden eyes would still be fixed on him from across the cell. Not hostile exactly, more like a scientist observing an interesting specimen. On the second day, Owen started talking. Not to fill the silence, but because he needed to maintain his sanity, and talking to a dragon beat talking to himself. I grew up on a colony world called Harvest Point, he said, while organizing his medical kit for the 3rd time. Small population. Everyone knew everyone. When I was 9, a disease swept through our settlement, something in the local water we hadn't filtered properly. The only doctor we had worked for 72 hours straight trying to save people. She died from exhaustion at her desk with a patient file still open in front of her. Shade's tail twitched, the first voluntary movement Owen had seen beyond the dragon's breathing. My mother was one of the people she saved, Owen continued. I decided then that I wanted to do what she did. Save people. Make the conscious choice every day to preserve life even when it cost everything. He closed the medical kit. Looks like it finally cost me everything for real. Why tell me this? Shade's voice rumbled across the cell. Because you asked why I'm here, I'm giving you the full answer. I could still kill you. I know, but if these are my last days, I'd rather spend them being honest than afraid. Shade made a sound somewhere between a growl and a sigh. Honesty is rare, especially in places like this. The 3rd day brought change. Shade tried to shift position, and Owen caught the slight hitch in his movement, the momentary tension in the dragon's jaw, the careful way he redistributed his weight. Owen had seen these signs thousands of times in wounded soldiers trying to hide pain. Your left leg is bothering you, Owen said. The temperature in the cell seemed to drop 20 degrees. Shade's eyes narrowed into slits of molten gold. Watch your words, human. I'm a medic. Noticing injuries is what I do. I am not some weak prey animal for you to study. I didn't say you were. I said you're hurt. Owen stayed seated, keeping his voice level. The hesitation when you move. The way you favor your right side. The darker scales near your left shoulder joint suggesting old blood or infection. You've been compensating for months, maybe longer. Shade rose to his full height, wings spreading slightly in a display of dominance that made Owen's hindbrain scream at him to run. You dare suggest I am weak? I suggest you're in pain, Owen replied, forcing himself to stay calm. There's a difference. Every living being experiences pain. Acknowledging it isn't weakness. Ignoring it until it cripples you is just foolish. The dragon's claws carved new gouges in the metal floor. They caused this during my capture. Fired some weapon into my shoulder joint. Their doctors here keep me alive, but they don't heal. They want me capable of being studied but not comfortable. Owen's hands clenched. He'd seen that kind of treatment before in prisoners of war. Maintaining life without providing care. It was cruel and violated every medical oath he'd ever taken. Let me look at it, he said. Shade laughed, a terrible sound like rocks grinding together. You want me to allow a human to approach me? To touch me? So you can finish what your species started? So I can help. Owen stood slowly, hands visible and empty. You said yourself I chose mercy over orders. That I was sentenced here for refusing to let someone suffer. Why would I suddenly decide to cause more suffering now? Because I killed 347 of your kind. Who were torturing your people, Owen said. You were specific about that earlier. They had Dracovians on tables, conscious, being cut apart. You stopped it the only way you could. That's not murder. That's rescue. Shade stared at him for a long moment. You believe me? Your story makes more sense than the official report. Governments lie when the truth is inconvenient. I learned that the hard way. Owen took one careful step forward. I'm not saying what you did was right or wrong. I'm saying you're hurt, I can help, and sitting in pain for the rest of however long they keep you here serves no purpose. I could bite you in half. Yes, you could have done that any time in the past 3 days, but you haven't. You've watched me, listened to me, even talked with me. So maybe, just maybe, you're tired of being treated like a monster and wouldn't mind being treated like a patient for once. The dragon's wings folded slowly. He settled back to the floor, but his posture remained tense. If you try anything beyond healing, I will make your death slow. Understood. Owen picked up his medical kit and walked across the cell. Each step felt like moving through deep water. His training warred with his survival instincts. Every part of his brain that wasn't focused on medicine screamed at him to stop approaching the apex predator. He knelt beside Shade's left shoulder, close enough to feel the heat radiating from the dragon's scales. The wound was worse than he'd thought. A deep puncture, badly infected with tissue damage extending into the muscle beneath. Whoever treated this initially had done the minimum to keep Shade alive while ensuring maximum discomfort. This is going to hurt, Owen said, opening his kit. I need to drain the infection and clean the wound properly. I have limited pain medication and I'm not sure how it will affect your physiology. Do what you must. I've endured worse. Owen worked with steady hands, doing what he'd done 1,000 times before. Assess the damage. Clean the area. Drain the infection carefully. Shade remained absolutely still, but Owen could feel the tension in the dragon's muscles, the barely suppressed sounds of discomfort. I had to watch them die, Shade said suddenly. My people. After I destroyed the colony and freed the prisoners, the Galactic Council sent warships. They said Dracovians were too dangerous, that we proved we couldn't coexist with other species. They hunted us across 3 sectors, shot us from the sky, killed children who'd never harmed anyone. Owen's hands never stopped working, but he listened. I was a healer too, Shade continued, voice thick with old grief. Among my kind, I tended wounds and sickness. I saved hundreds during the wars, and then I watched them burn while your ships fired into refugee groups. The galaxy calls me a monster for destroying one colony. What does that make them for destroying an entire species? It makes them the same thing, Owen said quietly. Murderers who write the history books so they look like heroes. He applied antiseptic and Shade hissed. I'm sorry. Almost done. Why do you apologize? You weren't there. Because you're in pain and I'm causing it even though it's necessary. That deserves acknowledgement. Shade turned his head to look at Owen with one golden eye. You are a strange human. I've been told that before. Owen finished cleaning the wound and applied what medications he had. The infection would take days to fully clear, and he'd need to change the dressing regularly. But it was a start. "Thank you," Shade said when Owen packed up his kit. Those two words, coming from a dragon who'd killed hundreds, somehow meant more than all the commendations Owen had received in his military career. He'd just treated the galaxy's most dangerous prisoner, and both of them were still alive. Maybe they'd stay that way a little longer. 2 weeks passed in the cell, and Owen changed Shade's dressing every day. The infection was clearing. The dragon moved with less pain, and something else changed too. They talked. Not small talk about weather or food. Real conversations about medicine, philosophy, and what it meant to choose healing in a galaxy that seemed to prefer violence. Shade taught Owen about Dracovian anatomy and their traditional healing methods. Owen shared human medical techniques and stories from his years treating battlefield casualties. "Your people use synthetic medications," Shade observed one evening while Owen cleaned the wound. "My kind relied on natural compounds from plants. Mixing them required precision. Too much of certain roots could stop a heart. Too little and the medicine did nothing. We use both," Owen replied. "Synthetic drugs for emergencies, natural remedies for long-term treatment. The best medicine combines knowledge from every source available." He applied fresh bandaging. "You could teach classes on this. There are physicians who'd give anything to learn from a Dracovian healer. There are no Dracovian healers left. Just me, and I'm locked in a cell waiting to die." Owen sat back looking at the dragon who'd become something close to a friend over these strange weeks. "Do you want to die?" "No," Shade admitted. "But wanting doesn't change reality. Even if I survive you, they'll keep me here until my body gives out or until some bureaucrat decides I'm more useful dead than alive. Then we need to change their minds." Shade's laugh was bitter. "With what power? You're a convicted criminal and I'm a war criminal. The galaxy doesn't listen to people like us." "Maybe not yet." Owen pressed the last bandage into place. "But things can shift. Truth has a way of surfacing eventually." In the control room 3 levels above, the warden watched the video feed with growing anger. This wasn't how the sentence was supposed to go. Owen should be dead. Shade should have torn him apart within days. Instead, they were cooperating, talking. The human was actively treating the dragon's injuries. Worse, some of the guards had started watching the feeds during breaks, commenting on how different Shade seemed when someone treated him like a person instead of a monster. How Owen's compassion was impressive. The story was spreading through the station like a virus, and the warden's superiors were asking uncomfortable questions. She'd received very specific orders when Owen was sent here. "Make sure he dies. Make it look like an unfortunate accident." No trials meant no public records, but a dead medic who chose the wrong side needed to serve as a warning to others who might question orders. The warden opened a secure communication channel. "We have a problem. The human has survived 2 weeks and made friends with the dragon. I need authorization to end this manually." The voice on the other end was cold and political. "Do it during the next shift change. Fewer witnesses. Make it a system malfunction. Depressurize the cell. Both of them die. Blame it on old equipment and move on." "Understood." Back in the cell, Owen woke from a light sleep to find Shade staring at the ceiling with unusual intensity. The dragon's body language screamed alertness. "Something wrong?" Owen asked. "The air circulation changed rhythm 3 minutes ago. The observation cameras repositioned twice in the last hour. The food delivery came early today." Shade's eyes tracked invisible patterns. "They're going to kill us." Owen's blood chilled. "You're sure?" "I've been in this cell for 5 years. I know every sound, every pattern, every routine. When things change, it means someone is planning something." The dragon looked at Owen. "They never intended for you to survive 30 days. You were sent here to die quietly. But you didn't die, and now we're a problem. How long do we have?" "Hours, maybe less." Shade shifted position, testing his mobility. Thanks to Owen's treatment, he moved better than he had in months. "Your people built this cell to hold me, but they built it assuming I'd be injured and weak. I'm stronger now." Owen stood and examined the walls, thick reinforced metal designed to withstand a dragon's strength. But near the floor, where the wall met the corner, there were maintenance panels. "Access points for repair crews. There," he pointed. "If you can tear through the panel, we might reach the maintenance corridor." "And then what?" "We're on a prison station in deep space. Where do we run?" "I don't know yet. But I'd rather die trying to escape than wait for them to suffocate us." Owen grabbed his medical kit. Can you do it? Breakthrough? Shade approached the wall, examining the panel. His claws, sharp as manufactured blades, traced the seams. It will make noise. They'll know immediately. They're going to kill us anyway. At least this way we have a chance. The dragon nodded slowly. You saved my life, healer. Treated me with dignity when no one else would. I won't let you die here. Before Owen could respond, warning klaxons blared. Red lights flashed throughout the cell. The air vents hissed and Owen felt the pressure change. They were venting the atmosphere, now, he shouted. Shade slammed his claws into the maintenance panel. Metal shrieked and tore. The dragon's renewed strength, combined with rage at being targeted again, gave him power he'd lacked before Owen's treatment. The panel ripped away, revealing a narrow corridor beyond. Owen squeezed through first, his smaller size an advantage. Shade followed, scraping scales on the tight passage but pushing forward with determination. Behind them, the cell's atmosphere continued venting into space. Another minute and they would have been unconscious. 2 minutes and they'd be dead. They emerged into a maintenance corridor lit by emergency lighting. Alarms echoed from every direction. Owen oriented himself based on the station schematics he'd memorized during his intake processing. All prisoners studied escape routes even when escape seemed impossible. Docking bay is 3 levels down, he said. If we can reach a ship before they lock down everything, they'll have guards. Armed guards with weapons designed to kill things like me. Then we better move fast. They ran through corridors that twisted like a maze. Shade's bulk made stealth impossible, but speed compensated. They encountered 2 guards who took one look at the dragon and fled rather than engage. The third guard was braver or more foolish. She raised a plasma rifle. Don't, Owen stepped in front of Shade. Please, we're not trying to hurt anyone. They're trying to kill us illegally. The guard's finger hesitated on the trigger. She was young, maybe fresh from training. Her eyes darted between Owen and the dragon. I've been watching the feeds, she said quietly. Everyone has. You saved him. He didn't kill you. She lowered the rifle slightly. Docking Bay 3. There's a small transport being refueled. Code is 7749. Why are you helping us? Because I joined station security to uphold justice, not murder prisoners for convenience. She stepped aside. Go before I change my mind or someone else comes. They ran. Down 3 levels, through corridors emptying as lockdown protocols evacuated non-essential personnel. The docking bay doors loomed ahead and beyond them sat their only chance at survival. But between them and freedom stood the warden with a dozen armed guards. And behind the warden, Owen saw something worse. News drones. Camera feeds. The evacuation had brought media ships close enough to pick up signals. This confrontation wouldn't be quiet or hidden. Whatever happened next, the galaxy was watching. Owen and Shade stopped at the entrance to the docking bay. The warden stood flanked by armed guards, their weapons aimed and ready. But the news drones hovering behind security barriers changed everything. Red recording lights blinked like accusatory eyes. Whatever happened here would broadcast across multiple systems within minutes. The warden's face was stone. Stand down. Both of you. Return to the cell and this will be classified as an attempted escape. Nothing more. An attempted escape from being murdered, Owen said loudly, projecting his voice toward the cameras. You ordered our cell depressurized. We have minutes of air left before we would have died. That's not standard protocol. That's execution. Murmurs rippled through the assembled guards. Several shifted uncomfortably. The warden's jaw tightened. You're a convicted criminal making desperate accusations. I'm a combat medic who was sentenced to death for saving a life, Owen countered. The same thing you people claim to uphold, justice, and now you're trying to kill me quietly, because my survival is inconvenient. One of the news drones moved closer. A reporter's voice crackled over its speaker. Dr. Reed, this is Patricia Grant from Galactic News Network. Can you confirm your cell was deliberately depressurized? Yes, the atmosphere venting wasn't a malfunction. It was deliberate murder dressed up as system failure. That's defamation, the warden snapped. You have no proof. The maintenance logs will show who authorized the vent sequence, Shade's voice rumbled across the bay. Every guard tensed, weapons tracking to the dragon, and the timing, minutes after your shift change when fewer witnesses were present. Convenient. The dragon speaks. Patricia Grant's drone moved even closer. Sir, what's your name? I am Shade, last prisoner of the Dracovian people. I have been held here for 5 years under conditions that violate every galactic agreement on prisoner treatment. He's a mass murderer, the warden interjected. Killed hundreds on Mining Colony 7. Don't let him manipulate you with lies. I destroyed Mining Colony 7, Shade agreed. After discovering they were torturing Dracovian prisoners in hidden facilities beneath the mining operations, taking my people from frontier settlements claiming we were dangerous, then experimenting on us, cutting us apart while we were conscious to study how we heal. I found 17 of my kind strapped to tables, some of them children. So yes, I burned that colony, and I would do it again. The silence that followed was deafening. Guards looked at each other. The news drones recorded everything. Patricia Grant's voice was carefully neutral. That's not in any official report about the Mining Colony 7 incident. Because the truth was inconvenient, Owen said. Just like my truth is inconvenient. I refused to let a teenage prisoner die during interrogation. My commanding officer wanted information through torture. I chose my medical oath over orders, so they sent me here to die quietly where no one would ask questions. These are serious accusations. Another reporter's voice joined the feed. Warden, do you have a response? The warden's hand moved to her communication device. Security, shut down all external transmissions. Clear this bay immediately. Don't. The guard who'd helped them earlier stepped forward. She removed her helmet, facing the cameras directly. My name is Riley Chen. I'm a security officer here. I've been watching the feeds of Dr. Reed and Shade for 2 weeks. The doctor treated the dragon's infected wound. They talked. They became friends. This morning I saw orders to depressurize their cell during shift change. It wasn't a malfunction. It was murder. Other guards began removing their helmets. More voices joined Riley's. I saw the orders too. The warden met with military officials 3 times this week. We were told to report the deaths as accidental. The warden's facade cracked. You're all relieved of duty. Effective immediately. You can't relieve all of us, Riley said. And you can't stop the broadcast. Multiple networks are carrying this live now. The whole galaxy is watching. Patricia Grant's drone moved between the warden and her targets. Warden, did you order the execution of Dr. Reed and Shade? I'm not answering questions from the media. Then let me ask a different question. Another voice boomed across the docking bay. A military transport had docked without anyone noticing, and a woman in Admiral's insignia walked down its ramp. She was older, gray-haired with eyes that had seen too many battles. Warden, did you receive orders from military command to ensure Dr. Owen Reed did not survive his sentence? The warden went pale. Admiral Winters, this is a civilian facility. You have no jurisdiction. I have jurisdiction when military personnel are being illegally executed. Admiral Winters stopped in front of Owen, studying him with recognition. I remember you, Reed. You served under my command during the frontier conflicts. Saved 63 soldiers during the evacuation of Outpost Meridian. You were the best combat medic I ever worked with. Admiral. Owen nodded, hardly believing she was here. I heard rumors about your court-martial. Closed tribunal. No public record. That bothered me. She turned to face the cameras. I spent 3 weeks investigating. Dr. Reed was convicted for refusing to participate in torture. His commanding officer, Colonel Davies, has been charged with 17 counts of prisoner abuse. The teenager Reed saved testified against Davies, and his testimony revealed systematic torture of prisoners of war. Reed's conviction was a cover-up. The warden stepped back. I was following orders. From whom? Admiral Winters demanded. Who ordered you to kill a medic whose only crime was upholding the ethical standards we claim to value? I want immunity before I say anything. You'll get nothing except a trial. Guards, arrest the warden. Riley and 3 other guards moved immediately, disarming the warden and securing her hands. The remaining loyal guards looked at each other and lowered their weapons. Fighting an admiral with live news coverage wasn't worth their careers. Admiral Winters approached Shade carefully. The dragon watched her with wary golden eyes. I'm not here to hurt you, but I need to know. Is what you said true? About Mining Colony 7? Every word, Shade replied. I can provide coordinates to the facility. The bodies may still be there if no one cleaned up the evidence. We'll investigate, and if you're telling the truth, if there was a hidden torture facility, then your actions take on a very different context. She looked between the dragon and the medic. You two have created quite a situation. We just wanted to live, Owen said. Well, you've done more than that. You've exposed corruption, war crimes, and forced the galaxy to confront some uncomfortable truths. Admiral Winters gestured to her transport. Come with me. Both of you. Protective custody while we sort this mess out. You'll be safe and treated fairly. Can you promise that? Shade asked. I've heard promises before. I can't promise the outcome, but I can promise honesty and due process, which is more than you've gotten in 5 years. Shade looked at Owen. The human nodded. They'd survived this long by trusting each other. Maybe it was time to trust someone else. They walked toward the transport together. Camera drones followed, broadcasting their every step. The news feeds were already exploding across the galaxy. Human medic befriends dragon. Prison corruption exposed. War crimes revealed. Owen didn't know what came next. But for the first time since his conviction, he felt something close to hope. And beside him, Shade's golden eyes held the same fragile feeling. They weren't free yet, but they were alive together, and the truth was finally coming out. Sometimes that was enough. Admiral Winters' ship felt wrong after weeks in a cell. Too much space. Too many people moving around. Owen sat in the medical bay while a doctor checked his vital signs and muttered about malnutrition and stress. Shade occupied the cargo hold, which was the only space large enough to accommodate him comfortably. Guards stood watch, but they kept their distance and their weapons lowered. You're surprisingly healthy considering your circumstances, the doctor said, finishing her examination. Though I'm recommending 2 weeks of proper rest and nutrition therapy. What about Shade? Owen asked. The dragon? I wouldn't know where to begin examining him. Dracovian physiology is beyond my training. I can help with that. I've been treating his wound for 2 weeks. The doctor raised an eyebrow. You treated a Dracovian? With what resources? Basic medical principles. Anatomy is anatomy once you understand the fundamentals. His wound is healing well, but he'll need continued care to prevent reinfection. The Admiral wants to speak with both of you once you're cleared. She's in the command room reviewing evidence. The doctor handed Owen a nutrition pack. Eat this, then go talk to her and read. Whatever happens next, you did something remarkable back there. People are already calling you a hero. Owen didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired and uncertain. But he drank the nutrition pack and made his way to the cargo hold. Shade lay curled in the center of the space, but his eyes tracked Owen's approach. How are you? Owen asked. Confused, hopeful, terrified. Shade's tail twitched. Choose any or all of those. This is the first time in 5 years I've been outside that cell. The first time anyone with real authority has suggested I might deserve more than death. Winters is fair. I served under her. She doesn't make empty promises. But she can't control what happens. The Galactic Council will want me dead regardless of why I destroyed that colony. I'm a symbol of Dracovian resistance, evidence that my people fought back. They'll never allow me to live freely. Owen sat down near the dragon, close enough to show trust but respecting his space. Maybe not. But symbols can change meaning. Right now, you're a symbol of someone who stopped torture and survived injustice. That's powerful. Before Shade could respond, Admiral Winters entered the cargo hold. She moved without fear, though she was close enough that Shade could reach her in one movement. I've reviewed the evidence, Dr. Reed. Your conviction is being overturned. Colonel Davies is in custody facing multiple charges. You're a free man. The words took a moment to register. Free. Owen had stopped believing that was possible. What about Shade? He asked. That's more complicated. Winters pulled up a holographic display showing coordinates and images. We sent a team to the location Shade provided. We found the facility beneath Mining Colony 7. 17 bodies, all Dracovian, showing signs of extensive experimentation. Medical logs documented procedures performed without anesthesia. They were studying accelerated healing, trying to weaponize it. Shade's claws scraped against the floor. The pain in his eyes was ancient and fresh at once. The people running that facility had government backing. Winters continued. This goes high up. Multiple officials are implicated. But here's the problem. Legally, what you did was still mass murder. 347 people died. Not all of them were involved in the torture. Miners, support staff, families living in the colony. I gave them warning, Shade said quietly. I broadcasted on all frequencies to evacuate. Gave them 6 hours. Those who died chose to stay. Chose to defend the facility rather than flee. That's your testimony. But there's no record of any warning. The communications were likely scrubbed from official records. Of course they were. Shade's voice carried bitter acceptance. So despite the evidence, I'm still a murderer. In the eyes of current law, yes. But laws can be challenged. Public opinion matters. The news coverage of you and Dr. Reed has spread across 70 systems. People are asking questions about how we treat prisoners, about what we're willing to excuse when it's done in the name of security. Owen leaned forward. What are you suggesting? A trial. A real one, public and transparent, with proper legal representation. Let the galaxy hear all the evidence and make an informed decision. Winters looked at Shade directly. It's a risk. You could be convicted again, but you could also be vindicated. And even if you're not, at least the truth will be on record. I've spent 5 years being treated like a monster, Shade said. Why would a trial change that? Because you won't be alone. Owen stood up. I'll testify. I'll explain what I saw, how you acted with me. The galaxy thinks Dracovians are mindless killers, but I spent 2 weeks with you and saw a healer, a person who chose to save tortured prisoners even knowing it would cost him everything. Your testimony alone won't be enough. It won't be just him. Riley Chen entered the cargo hold, still in her security uniform. I'm testifying too. About the conditions at Blackhold, about the orders to execute you both. 3 other guards are willing to speak as well. More people entered. The doctor who'd examined Owen, 2 of Admiral Winter's crew members. Even Patricia Grant, the reporter, appeared via holographic link. This is the biggest story of the decade, Patricia said. People want the truth. I've already received testimony requests from 12 witnesses who saw Dracovians being captured and disappeared. Your trial won't just be about you. It'll be about everyone who's been victimized by systems that operate in darkness. Shade looked at the assembled group, then at Owen. Why? Why do you care what happens to me? Because you saved my life, Riley said. When the warden ordered that cell depressurized, you broke through the wall. You could have escaped alone, left the human behind, but you didn't. Because you represent everyone who's been punished for doing the right thing, another crew member added. Every person who stood up against injustice and paid the price. Because you're a person, Owen said simply. And persons deserve justice, not vengeance dressed up as law. Shade was silent for a long moment. Then he slowly nodded. I'll stand trial. I'll tell the truth about what happened and accept the consequences. Good, Admiral Winter said, because the trial starts in 2 weeks. The Galactic Council is convening a special tribunal. They're feeling pressure from public opinion, and they want to resolve this quickly. Can we win? Owen asked. I don't know, but we can try. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Lawyers arrived, reviewing evidence and building their case. Owen spent hours giving testimony, explaining every detail of his time with Shade. The dragon did the same, recounting the horrors he'd witnessed and the decision that led him to destroy Mining Colony 7. News coverage continued non-stop. Opinion was divided. Some called Shade a hero who stopped torture. Others called him a mass murderer who deserved execution regardless of his motives. Debates raged across every media platform. Owen and Shade stayed together throughout the preparation. They'd survived a cell designed to kill them. They'd exposed corruption. Now they faced the biggest challenge yet, convincing the galaxy that mercy mattered more than revenge. The night before the trial, they sat together in the cargo hold. Neither spoke for a long time. Whatever happens tomorrow, Shade finally said, thank you for seeing me as more than a monster. Whatever happens tomorrow, Owen replied, thank you for seeing me as more than prey. They faced the morning together, ready to let the galaxy judge them both. The tribunal chamber was built to impress. Curved walls rose 50 meters high, lined with seats for representatives from 100 worlds. At the center sat 7 judges, species from across the galaxy chosen for their supposed impartiality. Owen and Shade stood in the defendants' area, surrounded by translucent barriers that allowed everyone to see them while maintaining security protocols. Every seat was filled. Billions more watched through live feeds broadcast to every corner of civilized space. This wasn't just a trial. It was a referendum on justice itself. The head judge, a crystalline being whose species communicated through light patterns, began the proceedings. Her words translated through speakers embedded in the chamber walls. This tribunal will determine the legal status of Shade, last captured member of the Dracovian people. The charges are 347 counts of murder. How does the defendant plead? Shade's lawyer stood, a human woman named Dr. Foster who specialized in interspecies law. The defendant acknowledges his actions but pleads justified defense of others. We will prove that Mining Colony 7 housed an illegal torture facility, and that Shade acted to rescue Dracovian prisoners being subjected to war crimes. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The prosecution, led by a stern military official, countered immediately. The prosecution will prove that regardless of any alleged facilities, the defendant's actions constituted mass murder, and that appropriate legal channels existed for reporting suspected crimes. The trial began. The prosecution presented their case first. Footage of the destroyed colony, names and faces of the dead, testimony from survivors who spoke of fire falling from the sky, of watching loved ones burn. It was devastating and designed to paint Shade as a monster incapable of restraint. Then came the defense. Dr. Foster displayed the evidence from beneath the colony. The torture chambers, the bodies, medical logs that documented experiments performed on conscious Dracovian prisoners. The chamber fell silent as images of children strapped to tables filled the displays. These are the 17 beings Shade rescued, Dr. Foster said. The youngest was 6 years old. They were taken from frontier settlements under false pretenses and subjected to months of experimentation. The facility was funded through classified military budgets and operated with government knowledge. Admiral Winters testified next, explaining her investigation and the systematic cover-up. Riley Chen described the conditions at Black Hole Station and the orders to execute Owen and Shade. Other witnesses followed, each adding pieces to a picture of institutional cruelty, hidden behind bureaucratic efficiency. Then Owen took the stand. I spent 2 weeks locked in a cell with Shade, he began, speaking to the entire chamber. I was sent there to die. I was told I'd be torn apart by a mindless monster. Instead, I met a person, a healer who'd been forced into violence by watching his people tortured. We talked, we shared stories. He taught me about Dracovian medicine, and I treated his infected wound. Owen looked directly at the judges. I've treated thousands of patients in my career. Soldiers, civilians, criminals, victims. I can tell you with absolute certainty that Shade is not a monster. He's someone who made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. He chose to save children being tortured over following laws that would have let that torture continue. The prosecution cross-examined aggressively. Dr. Reed, isn't it true that you were convicted of insubordination? That your judgment regarding authority is already compromised? Yes, I was convicted. For refusing to let a teenager die during torture. If that compromises my judgment, then I'm proud to have compromised judgment. The trial stretched across 3 days. More witnesses testified. Experts debated the legality of Shade's actions. The Galactic Council's representatives squirmed as evidence of government-sanctioned torture became public record. Several officials resigned during the proceedings rather than face questioning. On the final day, Shade himself testified. I was a healer before the wars, he told the tribunal, his voice carrying across the chamber. I took an oath similar to Dr. Reed's, to preserve life, to ease suffering. When I found that facility beneath the colony, I saw children strapped to tables. I heard them screaming. I recognized 2 of them from a settlement I'd visited years before. His golden eyes swept across the judges. I gave warning. 6 hours. I broadcast on every frequency to evacuate. I said what I'd found and why the colony would be destroyed. Most people left. Those who stayed were guards, administrators, and people who chose to defend the facility rather than condemn it. I did not target innocent lives. I targeted those complicit in torture. You appointed yourself judge and executioner, the prosecution argued. I appointed myself rescuer. Your legal channels had failed. Those children had been there for months. Reports had been filed and ignored. How many more would have suffered while I waited for authorities who were funding the torture to investigate themselves? The chamber erupted in debate. Judges called for order. The arguments raged for hours. Finally, the head judge called for closing statements. The prosecution demanded conviction, arguing that vigilante justice could not be tolerated regardless of motive. The defense argued that existing laws had been corrupted and that Shade's actions, while extreme, prevented ongoing atrocities. The judges deliberated for 6 hours while the galaxy waited. Owen and Shade stood together, not speaking, just present. Whatever came next, they'd faced it honestly. The judges returned. This tribunal has reached a decision, the head judge announced. On the charges of murder, we find the defendant guilty of 47 counts and not guilty of 300 counts. Those who died in the facility's destruction were complicit in war crimes. Those who evacuated and died attempting to prevent rescue operations made choices. However, 47 individuals in the colony were genuinely unaware of the facility and died in the destruction. For those deaths, the defendant bears responsibility. Shade's expression didn't change, but Owen felt his friend's tension. However, the judge continued, in light of the circumstances and the systematic failures of legal authority, this tribunal sentences Shade to time served plus 10 years of supervised community service and medical roles. He will work to heal rather than harm, demonstrating that Dracovians can contribute positively to galactic society. The chamber exploded into noise. Some cheered. Others protested. The judges called for order. Additionally, the head judge said when silence returned, this tribunal recommends complete review of prisoner treatment protocols and investigation of all classified detention facilities. The evidence presented reveals systematic abuse that cannot be tolerated. Owen looked at Shade. The dragon's eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. You're free, Owen said quietly. We're free, Shade corrected. 6 months later, Owen and Shade opened a clinic on Frontier Station Meridian. The location was strategic, placed where multiple species mixed and medical care was scarce. They treated anyone who came through their doors without asking about species background or ability to pay. Word spread quickly. The human medic and Dracovian healer who'd exposed corruption now worked together to heal the wounded. Former soldiers sought them out. Refugees, civilians from a dozen worlds. Each patient was treated with the same care and dignity. Owen was suturing a laceration on a young alien's arm when the door chimed. Shade looked up from mixing medications and made a welcoming rumble. Admiral Winters entered, looking tired but satisfied. I heard you two were making a difference out here. We're trying, Owen said, finishing the suture. How's the investigation going? 23 illegal detention facilities found so far. 412 prisoners released. 73 government officials facing charges. She smiled. Your trial did more than save one dragon. It exposed a system that needed exposing. Good, Shade said, carefully measuring compounds. Perhaps some of those freed prisoners will find their way to healthcare now instead of revenge. More patients arrived. A human with radiation poisoning. A Valorian with a broken limb. They worked together seamlessly. Human hands and dragon claws both serving the same purpose. Healing, helping. Choosing mercy in a galaxy that still often preferred violence. Outside their clinic, a sign hung in 17 languages. All are welcome. All will be treated. The galaxy hadn't forgotten what happened when they locked a human combat medic with their most dangerous dragon. But the lesson learned wasn't the one the warden intended. They'd learned that compassion was stronger than hatred. That choosing life over authority could change systems. That a human and a dragon working together could do more good than either could do alone. Patients kept coming. Owen and Shade kept healing. And slowly, one person at a time, they proved that mercy wasn't weakness. It was the strongest force in the galaxy. The unlikely partnership that was meant to end in death became a symbol of hope instead. And hope, once kindled, was impossible to extinguish.